Israel Adesanya goes after Jon Jones' dead mother in Twitter war. Knuckleheads, welcome to the Fighters Rep, where we give you free fights, interviews in the fight game, and fight commentary from the mind of a promoter/lawyer. You know, this entire Twitter war keeps getting uglier and uglier between Jon Jones and Israel Adesanya, and I feel like it may have reached its climax when Jon Jones said to Israel Adesanya on Twitter, "I'm curious to hear what his father tells him when he asks about fighting me. I wonder if his father believes he's ready. Eugene definitely doesn't." That's what Jon Jones said, and I'm assuming that Jon Jones brought that up because Israel Adesanya was talking about how he got rid of his pink hair because of advice from his father for the Costa fight. Israel Adesanya clapped back, right, to that tweet with his own tweet where he said, "My pops already told me how I'd beat you. Trust me, he knows. Your mom would be disappointed in who you've become." So I kind of understand to an extent that Israel Adesanya may feel insulted, or maybe he felt, an affront to his ego when Jon Jones brought up his father, while at the same time, kind of diminishing his skill and his courage by saying that, I wonder if your father thinks you're ready, Eugene doesn't. So I kind of understand Israel Adesanya wanting to clap back. But to invoke the name and the memory of Jon Jones' deceased mother, I mean, knuckleheads, I'm going to be honest with you on this one. For me personally, it doesn't really sit right. At the end of the day, this is a sport. At the end of the day, I think that's compounded by the fact that, on top of sportsmanship, you want to show some respect. It's mixed martial arts. At the end of the day, martial arts, comes with honor. At least it's supposed to. And I understand when you boil it down and distill it, it's a fight. I understand that. But it's still a sport, and it's still martial arts, and it just doesn't sit right with me to bring up somebody's dead mother. I mean, I would have probably clapped back because, you're sitting there quarantined in your room, typing away on your phone or whatever, and I would have probably, thought it over and clapped back with something about Jon Jones' brothers or father, at least somebody who's alive. But to invoke somebody's mother who's passed, I feel like is going a little bit overboard. And I'd love to hear your opinion on that, because I know not everybody will agree with me on that one. Obviously, some people think, everything's okay. You can kind of just say whatever you want. I think that there should always be, some sort of modicum, some sort of level of class when it comes to sports and when it comes to mixed martial arts. Because if we just have chaos and craziness, then everything spirals out of control. Then you've got a mess. You got potential brawls at weigh-ins and things like that. And I'll be the first to tell you that I don't want anything to do with that kind of thing. People say all is well in love and war, and there's certainly no love here. But I think even that idiom is inaccurate, because even in war, there are rules of engagement, and people that violate these rules, end up in courts, end up with death penalties, and so on and so forth. So this just doesn't really sit that well with me. I'm not saying I dislike Izzy. I'm not saying I'm judging Izzy. I love me some Israel Adesanya. I also like Jon Jones a lot. I think at this point, the level of disrespect, though, has reached a climax. I do agree with Dana White. This is the fight to make. It's just unfortunate that Jon Jones has decided to go to heavyweight. I'm wondering if this is going to be a hindrance to making this fight I'm hoping it isn't. Perhaps John Jones stays behind for one more light heavyweight bout. Maybe Israel takes on Jared Cannonier or whoever wins between him and Robert Whittaker. Robert Whittaker could definitely win that fight. And then maybe, just maybe, John Jones and Israel Adesanya can squash their beef inside the cage or at least settle their differences. But at the end of the day, for me personally, I don't think invoking somebody's deceased mother is kind of the way to go about it. And it's just not my style. So that's kind of my question to you guys, knuckleheads. You know, has it gone too far? Because this is kind of starting to turn into a Khabib Nurmagomedov Conor McGregor situation. Has it gone too far? How far is too far? Is there a limit to what these guys should kind of be able to say? I mean, at the end of the day, I don't like to muzzle anyone either. I'm like Dana White, right? I agree with him in that sense, in that I don't want to muzzle anyone. I want to allow people that fight for me to say whatever they want to say. Anybody that fights for FightersRep is going to be allowed to say whatever they want to say. But, you know, I also want to maintain a modicum of class. So how far is too far? Is there a limit? Do you think Israel Adesanya went too far? I'd really love to hear what you guys think. Knuckleheads, hit the subscribe button, the bell notification icon next to it. Join Knucklehead Nation. Click the link below. Get your FightersRep gear. We got shirts, hoodies, masks, tanks, everything you can think of. Because if you don't got your FightersRep gear, you don't know shit about the fight game. Again, please subscribe. The best fight channel on the internet, on the World Wide Net Web, and on YouTube. We'll talk soon.